Hello again. Uh, Welcome back to my channel. And my name is Kevin. And I have another story or two. Um, well, this monkey picture, we had a friend who lived a couple miles from us, and he'd been living in his house for 30 years. He was originally from England. And after he retired, he decided he would go back to England. So he fixed up his house, get ready to sell. He had a big estate sale, and because he didn't want to ship all of his stuff back to England, and so one of the things he didn't want to ship was this picture of a monkey, or painting of a monkey. It's painted on a piece of wood, and so he had this big estate sale, and we went over there and looked at some stuff, and this picture was out of our price range. So we went back on the second day because they're offering things for half price, but the picture was still out of our price range. Not that we really wanted it, but anyway, our friend called us up after the estate sale was over, and he said, "Well, if you have a few things that didn't sell, I'm bring them over tomorrow, and you can do with it what you want. You can sell them in your yard sale or whatever." So one of the things was this monkey picture, and so it sat in the box in my garage, or our garage, for a month or so, and then I said, "Well, that's really not a good place for it, and there's not really a place right now to hang it in the wall in the garage." So I just put it up here. This is a little stool upside down, and it's a good place. I can see it when I'm working in my shop or out in front of the garage, so I like it. Well, my wife doesn't like it, so we'll have to see if it stays or not. I'll let you know. If I do a video and it's not in the background, maybe it's because it's no longer in our possession. Anyway, I was thinking of another story. Let's see, what was I going to say? I don't know, let me think about it a while. Okay, thank you. Well, I'm back. I kind of remember a story I could tell. I grew up on the West Coast, and all the interstates are called freeways because there are no tolls. When I went in the military, they decided to send me to Boston, and I spent about 20 years altogether in the New England states, but all their interstates aren't called freeways because most of them have tolls. So they have highways. Well, I was working at a job 4 to midnight, and before work on Fridays, we went bowling. We were bowling on a bowling league, and we went bowling. And after work, I had to drive about a half an hour to get to work. So I was going up this one highway, and it's a big 3-lane highway, nice and straight, not much traffic. But I look up, and the freeway goes up, or the highway goes up, and then it goes back down like this. You can't see what's on the other side. All I could see was brake lights, 3 lanes of brake lights, and then the right lane would go, and it would stop. And the left lane would go, and it would stop. And the middle lane would go, and it would stop. I said, well, what the heck is going on there? So I slowed down, and as I came over the crest of this little rise, I could see what the problem was. It's not an accident. There was a horse standing in the middle of the highway, going back and forth between the left side and the right side, like he didn't know which way to go. So I said, well, someone's going to come over that rise and hit that horse. So I pulled over because I happen to have an apple in my lunch. And now I'm not a horse person. I have a relative who's a horse person, but now I know horses like apples, so I pulled way over the shoulder, grabbed my apple. Now the horse had a bridle on, but that was it. He didn't have a saddle, didn't have a reins or anything. So I gauged when the traffic was going to slow down, and I got over. Now why I went into the big middle area, I don't know, but I went over there and I coaxed the horse over, and he saw the apple and he came right over. And so I'm hanging on to the horse's bridle as he eats this apple. Well, now it's gonna be like playing Frogger. I'd have to get the horse back across to the other side. Well, about that time, an 18-wheeler pulls over in front of my car, and he yells across the highway and he goes, "Need some help? Do you need a rope?" And so I said, "Sure." So he came over, we tied the horse up with a rope, and then he went back across the highway, slowing people down so I could get across. And so we got the horse back across, and I said, "Well, now what do I do with him?" This is in the, I think it was 1986. We didn't have cell phones back then. And so I said, "Well," he goes, "Well, I'll call the police on my CB radio." I said, "Great." So he contacted the local police, and they said they had a report of someone missing a horse. So the trucker took off, and I'm standing there waiting for the police to get there. And so the police got there, and he's asking me questions, and I told him, and he goes, "Do you have time to wait here?" I said, "Sure." Well, right about that time, a pickup truck slows down and stops in the right lane on the highway. And he's asking the cop if we need any help. Well, remember I said someone was going to come over that rise and hit that poor horse? Well, someone came over the rise in the right lane where that truck was stopped. Well, this was another 18-wheeler. He came up over that rise and swerved to get in the middle lane so he wouldn't run into that guy in the pickup truck. Well, the car behind the 18-wheeler, who just swerved in their lane, ran into the back of that 18-wheeler. The cop yelled at the guy, told him to pull over on the shoulder, and then he had to go deal with the traffic. And I waited there for the owners to come and take the horse. I didn't have to wait very long, 10 or 15 minutes. And sure enough, here comes these two people riding up on horses along the shoulder. And they took their horse, said thank you, and they left. And then I left. I was in front of the traffic, so I didn't have any problems. I get to work, and I'm a little bit late. And so I told them the story. I have a feeling they didn't believe me because their eyeballs were rolling over their heads and they're laughing. And I said, "Well, that's the truth. I can't make this up. It's true." Well, a week later, I was contacted by I think the owners or something. I think someone lived in that town, and they brought me the local newspaper that had a police blog, and there was my story written by the police that a citizen stopped and got the horse off the highway so he wouldn't get killed and cause an accident. So I took that police blotter and I had proof. So I was excused for that. Anyway, shortly thereafter, we had a company newsletter, and someone interviewed me, and I had my picture taken. I had an apple in one hand and a rope in the other hand, and I was in the local work paper. Anyway, that's about it for me for now, and until I think of another story, which I have plenty of them. Okay, thank you. Oh, I was going to do one more thing. A shout out to my grandkids. I love you. Bye.